Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thunderdome. This is Mid-Table Crisis with me, Tom Patrick.
And me, Simon Cross. Right, what we're going to do this week, we're going to give you a quick little weekend rundown, and then we're going to burst into some major talking points of the week, such as, Tom?
Well, I'm not sure if you watched much of the weekend's football, but it was a fairly big week in terms of goals and big games. Something rather interesting happened over in Spain as well. So,
really,
yeah,
Tom?
well,
And what was that? For those of us who've been living under rocks for the past week.
it was the classico. And get out from under that rock and stop touching yourself. Yeah, one of the best classicos. It's got to go in the top 5 classicos of all time. It was a classic classico.
That is the most Partridge-esque thing you've ever said. See, when I think of classic classicos, I think of like off-pitch antics as well, such as the antics of Jimmy Jump and the pig's head being thrown onto the pitch at Luis Figo. Those are like two of my personal favourite classico moments. But on the pitch, I guess in terms of footballing action, you're right. This has got to be one of the best ever.
A lovely hat trick, some wonderful tit for tat football and violence, and Sergio Ramos' customary red card. It really did have it all.
Oh, I like that. It's almost as reliable as a Swiss railway locomotive. Sergio Ramos getting sent off in an El Clasico.
Yeah, he's got... I'm not sure exactly how many red cards he's got, but he's well on his way to becoming the most sent-off man in history. And that is an achievement, especially when Roy McDonough was around, who I think racked up 20 red cards in a career.
Well, Roy Keane's got to have had a fair few in his time.
Yeah, but I think he benefited from retiring relatively young. Some league players went on to the late 30s and used to kick lumps out of people well into their old age.
Oh no, yeah, I see what you're saying about that, but I guess Sergio Ramos' disciplinary record wasn't the main highlight. It was the last-minute winner. Yeah,
I mean, I didn't realise we were going straight into this, but okay. Let's see, cut that
out. Well, they snatched it in the dying moments, didn't they, really? Old Barcelona, didn't they?
It was a great game, and Messi got himself a hat-trick. And to be honest, for a long time, it looked like Barcelona would be lucky to settle for a draw. But, late on, they snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, which is always good to see, because I think we all love Messi, really. We all want him to do well. He's not had a great time of it recently.
I think we all admire Messi. I mean, yeah, right, he hasn't had a great time of it recently. He's got the court case, he's had a couple of injuries, it's not been his most glittering season, has it?
Definitely not. And, in a lot of people's memory, they can't really remember anything else apart from it just being Real Madrid and Barcelona right up there. And we've had Atletico Madrid challenging. I think they're actually they're top of the table. Yes, they are. So that's something to consider because, Barcelona have been fighting their way through in a 3-horse race for the first time in years.
So it's good that there's been another challenge. I mean, we're going to touch a bit more on competitiveness within the main leagues later in the show. Uh-huh. So you've got a little preview of what we're doing there. But as I say, it's good to have a lot of new challenger emerge within La Liga because a lot of people have been complaining about the duopoly of that league.
Yeah, it's not good for a league. But I mean, here's an interesting stat for you. Spain and Barcelona have never lost a game in which Iniesta has scored. So that's a nice one for you. Yeah,
talk about a charmed figure.
Yeah. He opened the scoring on 7 minutes. Benzema hit back with 2 on 20 and 24. And Messi pulled one back to make it equal just before half-time. And then the penalties started coming. One for Ronaldo and Real Madrid on 55. Messi got one on 65 and then wrapped it up for a famous 4-3 win on 84. So that's 3 penalties in one game, which is fairly standard, I'd say. And only 1 red card, which is slightly less standard, but...
I was going to say, that's below average for a El Clasico, 1 red card, isn't it, really?
Yeah, but there were 7 yellows. So that's
I think, well, we always know it's a competitive fixture.
Yeah, very much so. And
So,
yeah, especially when you got Busquets and Pepe going up against each other, who
I was
both
going to
picked up
say.
their cards.
So that's those two taking care. Like, that's the two great heavyweights duking out in the Spanish league. Of course, we had two we had two teams that were marked as English title contenders face off this week, but it was a rather more one-sided affair, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone already knows the story, but the sending off, we're talking about Arsenal and Chelsea, the sending off at the at Stamford Bridge was fairly ridiculous. I mean, obviously he got confused, went for the wrong, basically thought it was the wrong player. I think, was it actually Oxlade-Chamberlain and he thought it was Gibbs?
Yeah, he sent off Gibbs, but it was Oxlade-Chamberlain that had handballed.
Yeah, yeah. So,
And quite an impressive handball. I mean, Szczesny and Fabianski could be proud of a save like that. I mean, not that I condone handball, but it was like, a truly great leap to like make it. It was impressive. It was cheating in a spectacular way, but cheating nonetheless.
yeah. And it was, that really did kill the game off. I mean, well, I say kill the game off. It was 2-0 on 7 minutes. Eto'o with a nice finish, and then Schürrle. And Hazard made it 3 on 17. So, it's not going to be a great game then, unless you're a Chelsea fan.
I was going to say, not many teams are going to get 4 past Chelsea at any point, really.
No, I mean, it was only going to get worse. I mean, for his 1000th game as well, I mean, a 6-0 loss to a championship title rival, and getting a player sent off wrongly. It was bizarre.
It was a bizarre game. I think in terms of Arsenal as title contenders, I have to say in my opinion, that's written them off, really.
Yeah, they were just completely and utterly outclassed. I think they played quite a high line, possibly because Chelsea had the 2 defensive midfielders, and they just got torn to bits, I think it showed quite a lot of Arsenal's defensive frailties.
Yeah, well, as I say, it's something we've talked about. I mean, they've bought in Flamini, which has brought a bit of midfield steel in, but I think they need another figure like him, which I've said numerous times on numerous podcasts, so I'm not going to go off on another rant about that.
Yeah, when Flamini's not playing, they have very little bite in midfield. And even then, they probably need one more strong centre-back who really knows what he's doing. Someone along the lines of...
See, Tom... Oh, sorry, I thought you were just pausing for dramatic effect there, Tom. Someone along the lines of...
I was thinking someone along the lines of a younger Vidic or a Sol Campbell in his pomp would be exactly the kind of player they need to turn that around.
Yeah, they could look at players along the line in the mould of Stephen Colker, maybe, or Ashley Williams, perhaps. Not as talented players, but players with a bit more defensive steel, perhaps.
Yeah, they're desperate. They just need a few more bodies in there, to be honest. They've got plenty of creative and attacking midfield players, but not enough defensive-minded midfield players, and not enough defenders, for my money.
It's like an NBA All-Star lineup, isn't it? It's all offense, no defense.
Yeah, they need to consider making some fairly significant investments over the summer, I'd say, if they actually want to challenge for it properly next season. Which is a shame, because I really wanted them to do well.
I don't know if we all did. I think we said on an earlier podcast they were our neutral pick. But they've got Man City at the weekend at home, but I think Man City could well and truly put the final nail in their title hopes by winning at the weekend. Yeah,
I mean, they have struggled with injuries, Arsenal. We've got to remember that. I mean, Ramsey and Wilshere have both been doing great this season, and both.
And Kallstrom as well. He's been injured.
Yeah, he's not been injured, has he? But yeah, I mean, you talked about City. They smashed 5 past Fulham as well in what you'd describe as a likely result. Man City at home versus Fulham, I don't think anyone would have put down an away win. 1-0 at half time, and then they just ran riot. Yaya Toure got a hat-trick, 2 of them penalties.
The man is ridiculous, let's face it.
Yeah, and 2 goals in the last 6 minutes. Even Di Michele scores.
Even, I like that. He's still a good technically minded player, Di Michaelis. I think he just he doesn't realise how slow he is now.
He is slow, and he gets found out a lot by the big players and the quick players. And yeah, he's no longer a top 4 player. And he's being asked to be that, especially now that Company's out of the running. So, yeah, it was good to see him do alright for a change.
Well, it's only against Fulham's attack. It's not exactly a great offensive unit at Fulham, is it?
No, they've not been banging the goals, it's fair to say.
No, as I say, it is fair to say that. And as I say, on a couple of previous podcasts, our last pre-recorded one before our live one, we were mentioning about how it was likely that Fulham are going to go down. Are we still saying that's the case?
Unfortunately so. I mean, we've got 24 points. There's 7 games to go.
It's going to be hard from here.
Yeah, I mean, I know a few weeks ago Solskjaer was saying he reckons he'll only need 37 points to stay up. It's getting to the point now where I'm not sure if Fulham will get 30 points this season.
Well, let me say,
let alone anything.
So, if we take Solskjaer's assessment that 37 is enough, Fulham are on 24, so they need to find 13 points out of a possible 21. So they need to get 2 points from every 3 remaining. I don't think they could do that.
That is literally impossible. I don't think they can, because it's 3 points for a win, mate. But yeah,
well, you know what I mean? But for every 3 points that are remaining, they need to win at least 2 of them.
Yeah. Basically, they need to win some games. They need to win, even if to get out of the relegation zone, even if the teams around them don't do that well, they'd need at least to get into the 30s to even have a hope. And that'd mean winning at least 2 games. And I can't see that really happening. I think they'll struggle to get a win for the rest of the season. I know the running isn't great. Neither Sunderland's, I know, but Sunderland have got 3 games in hand over them.
Just the 2 games in hand they've got over them.
I thought Sunderland had played 28 and Fulham have played.
Fulham have played 31. Sunderland have played 29.
Ah, okay. Oh yeah, they lost to Liverpool.
They did.
And yeah, but we mentioned Liverpool, and they were in a 9-goal thriller themselves at the weekend, which was a delight for football fans. Not so much for Cardiff City fans who saw their team getting humped. And I was a little bit disappointed as well, because I'm not Liverpool's biggest fan. And they were doing pretty well. I mean, it was a very, very good game. Jordan Much scored early on, and Suarez pulled one back. Campbell scored for Cardiff, so for a short while it was 2-1. And you thought Cardiff have really got a chance here. But then, Skirtle got a double in 13 minutes, which was odd. And Suarez turned on the style.
Well, when centre-backs get a couple of goals in a game, it's always quite odd. It just breaks the all we know about football, really. Yeah,
well, Skirtle got 2 in one game a few weeks ago as well. I think he's on 6 for the season now.
Yeah, well, Lescott got to, I think, 11 one season when he was playing for Everton.
Mm.
So, I think it's a bit late for him to match that, but, it proves that you can get to double figures at centre-back without having to take penalties as well.
Yeah, I know, Vermaelen probably would have done that in his first season at Arsenal, but he had a few injuries. But I remember him scoring some absolute crackers. I mean, when you think of centre-backs scoring, especially Skirtle, you think, he's up from the corner, he's getting the headers in, but Vermaelen scored some screamers from long range. So yeah, I mean, it's good to see. I always think of him as a bit of a bargain basement Vidic, but no, he's really shown himself. He's probably been the better player this season, comparing the two.
Well, yeah, but as I say, we've talked about Liverpool a little bit, and I've realised we've given a general overview of what happened at the weekend. Of course, you've all read the fixtures, you've all seen matches today, you all know what we're on about. So, Liverpool, yay or nay for the title then?
I still think Man City will take it, but I think Liverpool will run them all the way. It's going to be very, very tough for both of them. Of course, you can't forget Chelsea as well. But I think it's going to go down. It's going to go down to the last day, and I think all three of them will. At least two of them will still be going. Well, obviously, these two of them will still be going for it, but possibly all three of them will still be going for it. But I reckon Man City will just have a little bit more about them because they have won it before. Obviously, Chelsea have as well, but it's a bit longer ago. But it just gives you that bit extra, and they have got a deep squad. So, yeah, I think Liverpool do rely on Suarez quite a lot as well, so they really need him to keep firing.
I think they need to work on their defence a little bit as well. So, there we go. Well, as we say, that's our assessment of the Premier League and the weekend roundup, all taken care of. So we'll move on to the other main footballing issues of the week. And there was a particular article that I know irked you quite significantly, Tom.
Yeah, well, basically, I know Man United are a big club. I'm not going to dispute that.
I think it's beyond dispute.
Yeah, I mean, I know they're famous around the world. They've got a lot of fans around the world. But saying that Man United's recent difficulties have affected the Premier League brand, first of all, I don't think it's that much of a problem. I think it's a good idea that the league becomes a bit more competitive. I mean, not that much more competitive in that the three teams contesting it are three big teams anyway. But Liverpool might win it, and they have won it for many years. And Man City have only won it once. And I just think when you think of the plights of teams like Coventry and Plymouth, Hereford are going through a lot of difficulties at the moment. I don't think anyone's shedding any tears outside of Manchester when it comes to United's problems. I mean, this is Richard Scudamore, who's
I was going to say, these are comments by Richard Scudamore about the misfortunes of Manchester United and how they affect the Premier League brand, I think he called it. Yeah. And he's saying that when a club as popular as Man United doesn't do as well, that the whole brand suffers as a result. Mm-hmm. And I know what you're saying from a footballing sense. I know that you're right in the sense that it is a bit misguided and a bit spoilt. But if we take the Premier League in isolation and we look at it from a purely business format, and I am playing devil's advocate here, to an extent he does have a point. Yeah. In terms of that, you'll get less people, less casuals interested in the game, so you'll get less of those floating fans. Because let's face it, football is a hardcore thing. It's akin to a religion in some people's lives.
Yeah.
So there is a large percentage of the footballing fan base that will always watch football and their team and their league no matter what. But we do have to accept that outside of England and Spain, countries where the main two leagues are based, a lot of people around the world are just looking for the most entertaining action and, looking for brands that they would synonymise themselves with. And Manchester United, as a brand, does have a global pull. And when that brand suffers, you do think that the global pull is lessened, and therefore there are less casual fans across the globe that are willing to watch the game. So, from a purely financial point of view, I do see the point he's making. However, I don't think he should have been the person to say it by any stretch of the imagination. You can't say that your brand's in trouble because one team isn't doing as well. When it's, you can't say that as, as the Premier League's chief exec. It's not your position to say that.
It undermines the other teams a little bit.
I think it undermines the league if you're the one saying it. I think he's right. I think he's got a point. I don't think he's right to say it. I think he's got a point in the sense that it's likely to have happened. But but why he's saying it, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
As I say, this is me just purely being the numbers cruncher and trying to taking the emotion out of my response. But if I put the emotion into my response, it's ridiculous to think that the idea of more teams winning it and therefore a greater competitive edge should lessen the entertainment value of a league. Yeah. I'm with you on that point. I'm just saying I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously you'd have to. But I take your point. But I would say that there are more pressing issues in British football and English football than that. And I think Scudamore's probably... I think he needs to focus on some other things, even in the Premier League,
Well, let's not forget the Premier League is his remit. Like that,
Yeah.
that's what he's got to look after. I mean, yeah, you're right. There are, as I say, you've got Coventry's problems, you've got Plymouth's problems, you've got Hereford's problems. There are bigger problems. You've got Hinckley United, who have had to just recently start Hinckley Town or United. They've just had to start again. Apologies if I've got the name wrong there, Hinckley fans. I know how like many of you there are, so I'll get like nice letters sent in and whatnot.
People from Hinckley can't read or write. Just get people coming around your house, shitting in their hands and throwing it at the windows. Come on, Simon, you know this.
All right. Yeah. Okay. As the Knee Tonights, we are like almost duty bound to look down on Hinckley, but
yeah, I had a night out in Hinckley once. There was a guy standing near a nightclub, and he dropped his trousers, started touching himself and looking at me. His dog was with him as well. The dog was looking at him. I ran away. 2 hours later, I saw him. He was in his sleeping bag. He was hammered. He was screaming at me. He was crawling towards me. That man was the mayor of Hinckley. He was their elected person to represent them as a region. I think that really says it all about Hinckley.
I must point out that only probably 5% of that story is actually true.
That's true. I've never had a night out in Hinckley.
But anyway, going back to my original point, you're right, there are a lot of problems in British football. However, Richard Scudamore's remit is to look after the Premier League. So, is it his place to comment on these problems? To an extent, yes, and to an extent, no. It's one of those things. I see the point he's trying to make, but I think he's misguided in saying it. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about people who are misguided as well, we've got to mention Walsall FC, seeing as Jack Johnson misguidedly asked for us to talk about it
on the live podcast, but we didn't have time because you were called out of retirement. More on that later.
Yeah, I'm back as a rent boy.
So we'll talk about Walsall, who are currently, doing all right in League One. They're in with an outside shout at the playoffs. They're currently in 9th, only 5 points off 6th place, but 6th place does have a game in hand over them, you see. So,
yeah, to be honest, for Walsall, I think a good season is anything where they're not hovering around the relegation zone because they're so much of a yo-yo club. They're either battling relegation or they're going for promotion. There's no sort of happy medium. They never have a steady season.
They never have a mid-table crisis, do they?
No, they don't really. And
I was hoping I could get that in this week.
You love it. You really do love it.
I
and
do.
It's disgusting. But I do know they were right in amongst it. They were 6th and 7th for a while. But I mean, anyone who's paid attention to the League One table this season will know that it's really got to the point now where there's one place less for grabs. I'll just read you out the points totals of the teams. Wolves are in first with 83, Brentford in second with 79, Leyton Orient in third with 76, Rotherham and Preston both on 72, and in sixth, Peterborough in the final playoff spot with 58. So there's a 14-point gap in between 5th and 6th.
Well, as I say, the top 5 is locked out. Like there's no other team that can breach that now.
I mean,
really.
Peterborough have got a game in hand on Preston, but they are 14 points behind, with 8 games for them left to play. So yeah, you've really got to say it takes something big from Peterborough to actually go up this season. So I mean
to challenge for 5th.
Yeah, and even then,
it could very well be that the team that, if the team were to overtake Peterborough and surge into the playoffs, that they'd be the favourites because they have momentum.
Yeah.
Whereas the other teams are quite comfortable with it. I mean, Leyton Orient, they could yet take second. However, Brentford are 3 points above them and have 2 games in hand. So
yeah,
it may very well be that the top 2 is pretty locked out soon enough. Because Wolves have got only played 38 in comparison. Leyton Orient's 39. So while Wolves are on 83 and have a game in hand over Leyton Orient, and Brentford are on 79 with 2 games in hand over Leyton Orient. So
it's harsh on Leyton Orient because they've been very good all season, but they've just dropped away a little bit, and Brentford have really accelerated at the right time.
Well, the thing is with leagues, Tom, that over the course of a season, you end up pretty much where you deserve.
Unless you've been deducted 10 points, of course. But I think Wolves are a bit too good for that league anyway. A bit like we were talking about Luton. Wolves have got a team.
The conference, yeah.
Yeah,
now,
Wolves have got.
You mentioned the 10 points of Coventry. I've just had a quick look that and without the 10-point deduction, you'd got us to be 8th, so you'd be above Walsall if it weren't for those minus 10 points.
And that's only on goal difference. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of that this season. Adding 10 to the points total and seeing where you'd be. So.
I think ultimately you've just got to forget about it this season and just try and shake it off and move forward.
Just make ourselves as good a proposition for next season as possible, so we can get some good players in over the summer and really push for it. But yeah, what I was going to say as well is that Wolves really should be getting out of this league because they've probably got 7 or 8 players that have walked into a lot of championship sides. So.
Well, they kept their championship team for the most part, didn't they? They haven't dropped many. They didn't drop many players from it.
No. But we should really be talking about Walsall, I know. But yeah, they've had a couple of canny signings, especially, I'm not sure exactly how you say it, but I think it's Milan Lakovic from Chelsea. And yeah, he's coming on loan. And yeah, he's scored a few goals, but he brings a lot to the team as well. He's a young striker. I think he's Slovakian. And, he's tricky. He's quite a good target man. He really contributes quite a bit to the team. And, they've got a lot of players who are coming good. They've got the Chambers brothers. They've got a top quality centre back in Andy Butler. So they've got a team now. And they've continued the long tradition of bringing through the younger players and blooding them early as well.
Yeah, well, it's possibly more from necessity than desire, because let's face it, that is usually the case in League One, especially with Coventry, who have had to do that when a lot of players left recently.
Yeah, certainly. And I mean, they've also got in Fabian Brandy, who did well. Craig Westcar's had an amazing season for a lot of it, and Romain Sawyers as well. So yeah, they really do scour they're very good at picking up loans and rejects from other Midlands clubs as well. They always seem to do one out of that. So
nice bit of wheeling and dealing on their part.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing you need to do to succeed in this league, really. But yeah, in terms of their position, it's going to be tough for them. A lot of it is because they've had a good season. But for them to get into the playoffs, Sheffield United are 2 points behind them, but they've got 2 games in hand. Crawley is still in the running, even though they're only in 14th. They've actually got 4 games in hand on Walsall.
That's because they had a lot of pitch trouble at the start of the year.
And it could work for them. They could put a few wins together and could easily be up into the 50s. Walsall are on 53.
So it's not going to be an easy task. I mean, it's possible. I don't want to raise Walsall fans' hopes and saying it's definitely going to happen, but it's feasible. Yeah,
I mean, Port Vale are still in with a shout. Gillingham, I think, will struggle. Gillingham have played as many games as Walsall, but are 5 points behind. Apart from that, you've got Bristol City, who are on 46. Crawley are on 46, but have got the 4 games in hand. No one else can really touch them. So it's going to be an almighty scrap for 6th. And I think it's going to be Peterborough, MK Dons, Swindon, Walsall, Sheffield United. They're going to be the main combatants. And Port Vale and Crawley are going to try and win their games in hand as well. And try and get themselves in the mix.
Get amongst it.
Yeah. But I mean, it is going to be very, very tough because there's some big established teams there. And Walsall maybe haven't got quite as many points on the board as they should.
They've got a chance. They've still got a chance though. Their playoff hopes aren't quite dead and buried. Quite like Stephen Ireland's grandmother, who we should probably explain. Some fans may have forgotten about this one. This was a story 7 years in the making. This one. A lot of people may have remembered that Stephen Ireland once got himself excused from international duty for Ireland by claiming that his grandmother was dead, when in fact she was very much alive and kicking. Well, I don't know what she might have been kicking, but she was alive and indeed kicking.
She was she was kicking a football because she was the oldest ever female player in the Women's World Cup who played for Ireland internationally, which is a little known fact. So it's very little known actually because I just made it up. But I had him going.
I fell for that one. I actually believed you there.
And so did them people at home that listen to us. So yeah.
Oh God. Oh.
Yeah, I was. I remember hearing about it, and I'm thinking at the time that it was a bit odd, but the plot thickened, didn't it, Simon?
The plot thickened because the media did a bit of digging and found out that his maternal grandmother, which he had originally claimed, i.e. his mum's mum, was very much still alive. So the Irish press camp changed it to the fact that it was his dad's mum that was dead. But that wasn't the case either. In fact, he had lied about it so he could go home and see his girlfriend, who had just suffered a miscarriage. Which I think would have accepted if he had just said that. So I don't get why the whole dead grandmother thing was made up in the first place.
Well, it may have something to do with the fact that he was a young lad at the time. Maybe he didn't want people getting out that he got this girl pregnant. Maybe that had something to do with it.
I think they were in a stable relationship. I don't think that was anything to do with it.
Well, I don't know. The Irish are very particular about certain things. It's one of the only countries where abortion is still illegal. I think in Europe, I think it's only Malta, perhaps Italy, and Ireland where abortion is illegal.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, as I said, I think it was indeed a miscarriage, so I don't think it was anything to do with that. But yeah, I see the point you're trying to make, that it's the whole
premarital children are still looked down upon quite a lot. So
yeah, I get the point you were trying to make.
Yeah.
But we bring this back up because Roy Keane mentioned recently he ran into Stephen Ireland's grandmother on a flight, and Stephen Ireland's grandmother asked basically, could you get my grandson playing for Ireland again? So she's asked, she's looked into the possibility for him, which is a little sweet, but it's a little embarrassing as well. You don't want your granny asking whether you can play for your country.
Thing is though, it's not like your granny asking for it, because Stephen Ireland's actually played for Ireland before. It's not like your gran just going up saying, oh, do you mind giving him a game, and it's some kid.
True, but he's been in the wilderness now for how many years? Internationally?
Yeah, you say that, but he is slowly coming back to the fore. I think he's got a chance. He's got a chance of getting back into the squad this year, I'd say. He's beginning to show a bit of the form that he had, because Stephen Ireland as a player, he showed a lot of promise, but he really struggled to deliver on it for a long time.
He's sort of gone into the wilderness for the last 3-4 years, and yeah, recently you're right, he has put in some good performances, and he's emerging somewhat, but it's one of those, it's difficult. I mean, Roy Keane seems like a man who would like to do something different to the old regime, so we may look at him. I mean, of course, ultimately it's Martin O'Neill's decision, because Roy Keane's only the assistant manager, but yeah, they may look to bring him in. I mean, Martin O'Neill's worked with Steve Lyman before. Aston Villa. Yeah,
and you've got to think as well, he is the kind of player they need. They haven't got too much creatively. You know, Andy Reid is well past his best, even if he would get in the squad these days.
They've got Aidan McGeady, they've got Shane Coleman, they've got an attacking fullback in that regard. They can bomb down the wings, all right. But
yeah, they can bomb down the wings, but they haven't got too much in terms of creative in the middle. You know, I think that's partially what they could do with, or a good attacking midfielder. McGeady and Coleman are fine out wide, but what about in the middle, you know?
No, you're right, in terms of, they've got industrious midfield, centre mids, you're right, but I see your point you're making, they've got no, playmaker.
Yeah, someone to add a bit of spark, to put that killer ball in, you know?
Yeah, well, it's one of those, I mean, you're right, I reckon you're right, I'm not going to challenge you on this one. I know I did it on Jermaine Defoe issue, which is well documented now.
Yeah, did you see he got a brace on his debut as well?
Yeah, he got a brace on his debut, but compared to, the high-firing Sturridge, Rooney, who's pretty much guaranteed, and let's say we take 5 strikers, hypothetically, I think either Rodriguez or Lambert's going to take one of the slots, so there's 3 down. Let's say Rodriguez and Lambert both go. So there's 4. And then there's Welbeck, who's more likely than not to get in. So there's 5.
Are your hands full of straws that you've just been clutching at? I don't think Rodriguez is a. You just chuck that one in there as if like it was like, oh yeah, Rooney, Rodriguez, yeah. I think a lot of it will come down to form, and I think.
Yeah, exactly. And Rodriguez is in it. He's in form now. Yeah. That's why I mentioned him. It's not a clutching at straws at all. I think you're wrong there.
Well, I think we'll see. We'll see when it comes to the picking. He might only take 4 strikers.
He might. I doubt it. I reckon he'll take 5.
I think
I don't think he'll play like 5 strikers, if you know what I mean. I think he'll take 5, but one will be like used as a winger.
Well, if you take Rooney, you don't necessarily play him as a striker, do you?
I'd play him in the hole. I'd play him as a number 10, but that's me.
Yeah, and if you do take Sturridge, then you can always play him out on the left anyway. With Welbeck, you can always play him out wide. Not necessarily a good idea, but
you can do it.
He has played there before for England as well as for his club. So
yeah, it's like drinking slightly off milk. It's not necessarily a good idea, but people do it.
You do it.
Wow. Right. Expiration dates. They're more a guideline than a hard and fast rule to live by, aren't they?
That's not an excuse for having sex with corpses. Regular listeners will know that Simon is locked out of every single morgue in the country after his necrophilia addiction, which...
Cheers for that. That's how they got Seville.
I was going to say, it ended in what could only be described as an unsightly scene at a funeral 3 or 4 weeks ago. But Simon's getting the help he needs, and I like to think of this as part of his therapy. But yeah, go on, Simon, what were you saying?
Oh, the worst part is we were talking about a dead grandmother before we started, so I can't even segue to that. Well, we were talking about how Isla need a creative playmaker. You yourself aren't a creative playmaker, but your services were required after a long absence, weren't they, Tom?
Yes. After many years, too many some would say, I finally strapped on the shin pads and found my old boots. And
as regular listeners will remember, we cut our live special slightly short because obviously we had to let Tom out into the real world to actually play football rather than talk about it for a change.
Yeah, in the end, it only turned out to be a friendly. But if I get any excuse to run around for a bit, it's always good. And
it's like a dog.
Yeah, I only managed to score 1.
All right, only 1. Oh, I see where this is going.
Oh, it was a goal, it happened. It was past my own brother as well.
Which is always a little bit sweeter.
Yeah, I hit the bar with a nice shot as well, which was disappointing. But, in the end, I was left unmarked in front of goal. I had a bit of time, so I sent him one way and then just knocked it into the other corner, and I was happy with that. But, it was quite an interesting game because I was playing with some lads I haven't played with for a while, and it was interesting seeing the fitness levels. Of course, I'm a lot more in fit than I'd like to admit, but I did okay.
Oh, you drink more than you like to admit, which is probably one of the reasons for that.
Yeah, you want to go there? Oh, no, Simon is correct. But in terms of fitness, I wasn't great, but I lasted. In terms of skill and ability, my passing was fairly poor. My touch wasn't great. When you haven't played in a while, you can really feel it.
Well, those are natural. That's natural of like any absence. I mean, if I were to come out of retirement and fill my role as midfield general, my main attributes of passing and vision would go.
Be a midfield lieutenant.
I was all right as a midfield. I think I brought an interesting dynamic to our 5-a-side team.
It was interesting, all right. I'm saying if you came back now, you'd struggle.
It took me about a month or so to get back in the swing of things if I was playing once a week.
And
of course, as I said, I did always bring an interesting dynamic to our 5-a-side team. I mean, regular listeners may or may not know this, but me and Tom were teammates for a number of years, weren't we, Tom?
Yeah, which I was always thankful for, in that I never had to play against you. Simon's first touch usually came with an elbow, and it was usually in your ribs.
Whoa. I gave what I received. That is all.
Yeah,
I was never excessively aggressive. I always matched the levels of aggression I was shown.
yeah. I mean, once or twice I did think. I remember you weren't always in full control of yourself. I think you had some slightly dodgy shoes, and I remember you used to be ice skating for some of it. So sometimes you could get going pretty fast, but you couldn't always stop.
No,
So I do
yeah,
remember.
I remember the shoes you're on about. Yeah, I had the turning circle of a small nation by the end. It was like Liechtenstein doing a 3-point turn. It was awful.
Yeah, I remember you blastering some guy into the wall as well. That was always fun. But yeah, I was.
I played hard, but I played fair, I think.
He liked it hard, but I was actually playing outdoors, so I didn't need to worry about that too much. But I did have another little kickabout last night as well, and I scored a few there. I was happy with my goals total. I think I got about 4, including a couple of nice finishes, sending the keeper the wrong way, and a rather gorgeous one, even if I do say so myself. I drew the keeper out and chipped it just over his head, and it was one of those ones where it was bouncing, just rolling over the line. It just made it before the keeper could claw it away, so I was very happy with that. So yeah, it was an interesting and welcome return to form.
Oh, you're making me all nostalgic now. I kind of want to strap up and play for Running Scarred again. I think we had a decent little run, I think.
Yeah, we had some good games, and towards the end we actually we were a cohesive and well-oiled unit. We're not that much anymore, you know. I'm pretty much permanently injured, and half of those players, I think they're in a Zambian prison.
But that was a interesting scandal, which is a story for another day.
Yeah, story for another day. Maybe a BBC documentary in 10 years' time. But
Maybe BBC4.
yeah, if I was caught in a Zambian prison, sorry, I'd probably want a good book to read. Simon, do you reckon you could recommend anything to me?
Oh, you know what? It's funny you mention this because, as always, it's that time of the month again. It's Book of the Month.
It's that time of the month. I'm on my period.
Your literature period.
Wee.
Right,
Taste
so yes.
my words.
Book of the Month this month is, it's got a little bit of a special theme to it because it's approximately, my maths may be out by a day or so, 75 days until the Brazilian World Cup starts.
At the time of recording, you may be listening to this in 2015, in which case we are very sorry.
And well done to Brazil for becoming new world champions.
Yep, it was tough. Croatia ran them all the way, but in the 121st minute, Ronaldinho scored that amazing overhead kick, and then
from his own 6-yard box. That was the weird bit.
Yeah. And he was fine. So yeah, that was good to see.
But no, our book of the month is called Football, a Brazilian way of life, and it shows the cultural and social history of the country through the medium of football. I think it's a really interesting journey.
Yeah, I think that the title alone tells you something. Football, a Brazilian way of life. It immediately shows you how intrinsically linked they are. Who, when they think of Brazil, does not think of football?
Well, think of sugarcane, some Formula One drivers, rum, and loads of other stuff. But that is after you think of football first.
I was going to say, if you walked up to a man in the street and said, "What do you think of when I say Brazil?" and he said sugarcane, you'd punch him in the face repeatedly until his teeth fell out. I mean, Brazil's got to be first on the list for most right-minded people.
Oh, football, yeah. Football would be the first thing that comes to mind. Maybe samba at a push, but those are quite linked. There's still like dance football, which is covered in one of the chapters.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting, it shows how it's imbued culturally, but it also shows the dark side of Brazilian football, which we're seeing a little bit with these stadium delays. I mean, there's a few of these owners, a few of the owners of the clubs it portrays as quite corrupt figures, agreeing quite rightly, and it shows the grand investigation that Brazilian football had after the 1998 final. Yeah,
I mean, I'll talk about that in a second, but I think people should know Brazilian football. Brazil's hosting the World Cup. Brazil, as a nation, is one of the most corrupt in the entire world. Brazilian football is incredibly corrupt. So yeah, people should really think about that when they think that, they're saying FIFA awards in the World Cup to certain dodgy nations. Brazil's fairly dodgy themselves. I mean, they're no Qatar, but
I was going to say, you say they're dodgy, but comparatively, it's still the best World Cup we're going to have for the next 8 years.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to wager a large amount of, of my personal reputation on the fact that this is, out of the next 3 World Cups, this is the one we'll remember the most. In terms of, good things on the pitch. Other ones may become more infamous for debacles, but in terms of good quality, this is the one.
I'd say so. Yeah, I mean, we were talking a little bit about, the 1998 final. Of course, France won it. Zidane scored 2 headers, but the real.
Did Desailly get the other one, or was it Lilian Thuram that got the other one?
He didn't. He only ever scored 2 goals in his entire career for France.
Was it LeBeuf?
They were in the same game.
I can't remember who got the 3rd goal. I mean, maybe one of our fans will be able to help us with that one.
I thought it was 2-0.
It was 3-0. It was definitely 3-0.
I think it might have been Vieira who wrapped it up.
No, it was a defender. That much I do know. We'll have to come. Well, that's not the main issue. After they lost 3-0, beforehand we had Ronaldo's mysterious fit in the hotel room.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot being said about this. Does anyone actually know what happened? There's a famous quote, actually. There is only one person who knows exactly what happened to Ronaldo before the 1998 World Cup final, and that's the man himself. Even Roberto Carlos's roommate wasn't exactly sure what happened. There's been various theories bandied about, but basically, what we can say is that Ronaldo shouldn't have played. Ronaldo was in no fit state to play, but he was played anyway. Maybe because sponsors were, pressuring him.
That is alleged in the book. I mean,
yeah,
yes.
He did have a great tournament, and he possibly could have made the difference if he was, at his best. But I think.
Well, he's one of the greatest players I think we've ever seen since we've been alive.
Yeah, one of the best players of our generation, certainly.
Or any, possibly.
Possibly, but
let's not open that can of worms right now. We'll have the greatest player ever discussion at probably for a mid-table crisis 50th or 25th special.
Yeah, Emmanuel Petit scored the 3rd goal in the last minute.
Okay, I was wrong. It wasn't a defender. There we go. At least we've put that to bed.
Yep, put it to bed like a small Chinese boy. And yeah, I mean, you've really got to say why. What kind of nefarious things were going on in the background? There's reports of Ronaldo being given an injection, which his body didn't react very well to, and that might have been why he had.
Well, there's various theories on this. I mean, they're all detailed in the book. I mean, we shouldn't just focus on the dark side as well. I mean, we did mention the light side, we didn't mention the dark side. It truly takes you through Brazilian history in the 20th century through the medium of football, both the good and bad. It's quite a unique book. I mean, I didn't like it at first. I'll admit, I said this to Tom because Tom lent me his copy when I read it. I didn't like it at first because I thought the narrator was a bit eccentric and ostentatious with his words and what football meant to him. But the more and more I went into it, I realised he did it because that's how it is in Brazil. I hadn't quite grasped that. I mean, we English like to think of ourselves as pretty passionate fans. And I'd say we're definitely. I'm not going to get into which country's the most passionate fans. I'm not going to get into that. But we're in the higher echelons. I didn't realise quite what it meant to Brazilians until I read the book. It's really a fascinating insight. And before you watch the World Cup, I do urge all of you fans to go out there and read it yourselves. It's available on Amazon. It's not that expensive now. It's quite an old book. It was written early noughties, so
yeah.
Who knows? He may have done an update by now. He may have added a chapter or 2.
He's probably bringing something up for this World Cup.
I was going to say the guy's name is Alex Bellos.
Mm-hmm.
So I urge you to search him up and give him a Google. Put him in on Amazon. See what you find. See his stuff. Buy some of his stuff. Read it. Enjoy it. Love it. Basically. And and then you'll have an insight into the Brazilian World Cup, which is only 75 days away. Just to think we'll be That's our summer months covered, isn't it, Tom?
Yep, I'll certainly be living it up down in Acapulco. No, I'm not actually going to Brazil, unfortunately. But I will be balls deep in that World Cup, I can promise you. And yeah, I mean, honestly, it is a very good read. It tells you a lot about Brazilian life, as well as about Brazilian football. And as I say, those two are so
Intrinsically linked.
Yeah, it does tell you a lot about the makeup of that great nation.
And with the resounding praise of the work of Alex Bellos ringing in your ears as well as ours, because we can hear it too, let's face it. We're going to leave you for this week, good listeners, and this has been Mid-Table Crisis. I have been, still am, and will always continue to be Simon Benjamin Cross.
Benjamin? Jesus, I didn't realise you were Jewish. This has been Thomas Philip Patrick. Say it twice and I appear.
Alright, this has been Mid-Table Crisis. Goodbye, and we'll see you again soon.
See you. Bye-bye.